So I want to tell you today in this illustrated music about my collaborations with Daniel Kientzy, the saxophone virtuoso in France. The most important thing we did together was the Kientzy Loops, which he premiered in 2000, and which I wrote especially for him. And this is important because they gave us the Prix des Victoires de Musique. You don't hear too much about the Victoires de Musique these days, but it was important when it began in 1985, 86, 87, when the first prizes were given to Boulez, Dutilleux, Xenakis. It continued every year for the best creation, the best premiere of a new piece for contemporary classical music, and Kientzy Loops was their choice for 2001. It also became a CD. This CD is just number 66 in the list of all the CDs that Daniel Kientzy has made of contemporary music. In fact, the list goes up to 102 today. He's done so much for contemporary composers. He's recorded many Romanian composers because he's in Bucharest very often, and also South American composers, especially Cuban, but many other countries, not to mention French composers, American composers, German, etc. Japanese, Korean, he's been into Korea, all of this. Anyway, this was our collaboration. The CD also includes the saxophone version of Narayan's Chaos, all four infinite melodies, and a piece that we're going to hear at the end of this video called La Tortue de mer, the sea turtle. But we'll get to that later. I want to explain what the Kientzy Loops is all about, but in order to do that, I have to give you a little music theory lesson before. And for that, I got out this book that I made in the 90s, leading up to the theoretical book, Self-Similar Melodies, which we published in 1996. This theoretical study began with my analysis. I'm not really a programmer, but I know enough basic to do the basic program here, which could calculate all the possible self-melodies that make copies of themselves at some other tempo. I got all the way up to loops of 36 notes, and somewhere along the line, I found a loop of 21 notes that makes a copy of itself at 2 to 1, and that became loops for orchestra. There's another loop of 20 notes that makes copies of itself at 3 to 1, and that became La vie est si courte, la 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 la. There's another video, I think it's illustrated music number 9, which tells you more about that self-replicating melody. Well, all these possibilities, but to really get into it, we have to go back all the way back to page 1. There, now we can all see it. It says a loop of 7 self-replicating at a ratio of 2 to 1, and it says there's one orbit of 0, another orbit is 1, 2, and 4, another orbit is 3, 5, and 6. That means the one note has to come at time 1, time 2, and time 4, and another note has to come at time 3, time 5, and time 6, and another. Well, to see that more clearly, I have to show you a loop of 7 points. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 points, 0 through 6. And if I have Notes 1, 2, and 4 are the same note. And 3, 5, and 6 are the same note. We have a palindrome. It's symmetrical. And we have 3 notes. A, B, B, B here, and C, C, C here. A, B, B, C, B, C, C, A, B, B, C, B, C, C, A, B, B, C, B, C, C, A, B, B, C, B, C, C. Can you hear that the note that's the melody that's going in halftime is the same as the A, B, B, C, B, C, C, A, B, B, C, B, C, C, A, B, B, C, B, C, C. Okay? That was the beginning of the unison polyrhythms that Ugly Culture played. To get to Kientzy's loops, we have to turn the page and look at loops of 8 notes. On this page, we see the loop of 8, which self-replicates at 3 to 1, which is the formation I used for the Kientzy loops. So to show you the 8-note loop that was used for the Kientzy loops, we have to make a loop of 8 notes. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 notes, numbered 0 through 7. And the program says that one note has to appear at time 1 and time 3. Another note has to appear at time 2 and time 6. Another note has to appear at time 5 and time 7. 0 and 4 can be anything. So I could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes, but I decided that to make 0 and 4 also the same. And arbitrarily, you can choose any 4 notes, but I choose G for these, F for these, E for these, and D for these. That gives us G, F, E, D, E, F, G, D, G, F, E, D, E, F, G, D. Now, the guy who's playing every 3 notes can play G, T, T, F, E, T, T, D, T, E, T, T, F, T, G, T, D, and back to G. So he's doing the star formation, playing 3 times slower. But interesting, this is a palindrome. So if you start here and go G, F, E, D, E, F, G, D, you have the same thing if you go counterclockwise and start here G, F, E, D, E, F, G, D. And if you go at 3 to 1, G, F, E, D, E, F, G, D. You can do that in the other direction too. And actually, since 5 plus 3 equals 8, you can play every 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. D, 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 D. That's just doing the star shape in the other direction, which is equivalent to playing every 5th note instead of every 3rd note. But all of this is kind of abstract. I need to play the piano a little bit so that you can actually begin to hear what's going on. I'm going to play the basic melody with my right hand and 3 times slower in my left hand. Unison. Both together. And now at 5/1, I'll try. This is harder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you hear that? It's harder to hear the 5/1. In fact, Daniel never really managed to play the 5 times slower, but he does the 3 times slower perfectly, as we're going to hear when we listen to an excerpt from his recording. So now we're going to hear, I'm going to go back to the computer, and we're going to hear Daniel, an excerpt from how Daniel played this with the tape loop, which was saxophone sounds, which he made. But before we do that, I want to just mention that this book, like all of my archives, is going to the French National Library after I die, and it's available at the Edition 75 offices now, also for interpreters or musicologists who want to know more about my music and how it originated. So now we're going to hear an excerpt from the Kientzy Loops as Daniel played it. At first, we just hear the background loop, which is the same loop played, notes played on saxophone, going around and around from the beginning of the end to the end of the piece, all 12 minutes. Now, thumb, thumb, 1, thumb, 3 times slower. Now he's playing. He can accent other notes too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Thumb, thumb, thumb. As long as he's exactly in unison with the loop, he can make other syncopations. But now I want to go on to the other piece that's on the CD, which is La Tortue de mer. Let's look first at the what happened in the museum at Porte d'Oreille when we presented this with Daniel in his contrabass saxophone. There's only about 5 of these in the world. Daniel's very proud to have one of them. And there is the drawing, which came from an island in the chain of Vanuatu. We are indebted to our colleague Marc Chemillier, who told us about the natives of Vanuatu who have a tradition of drawing a sea turtle in the sand according to formulas that they've memorized. Here's a better drawing of the closer drawing of the sea turtle. There's over 100 moves, and they can do them the same every time. Straight line, a curve, straight line, a curve, straight line. Then it comes around to all the other parts of the drawing. And I decided to follow exactly this drawing by coding it into music. So for a straight line, it's just coded as a single note. Curved line is da. The little foot which means these little 8 things out there, not really feet, but I call them little feet. The big foot is this music. The head, which only comes once at the end of the piece, is da. The tail, which is this curve at the bottom, and da-dee-da-da-da-dee-da. And the big curve is the whole shell. Okay. So let's listen to Daniel, and I'll try to help you follow as you listen to the music. Line. That's the tail. Line, curve, curve, line, line, curve. Now here's the big circle. This instrument is almost as big and heavy and slow as the sea turtle itself. It's much too big and slow to be useful in jazz or most other music, but it's perfect for this piece. That's why Daniel said he's happy to have this piece, because it's the only piece he can play as a solo for contrabass saxophone. A little foot. There's one of the big feet. There you go. The poor animal doesn't get very far in 3 minutes. But it's nice to watch him crawl around. Another big foot. There's the head. The curve. Big foot. And it's all over.